Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy D-Man for Life, aka D-Mizzle for Rizzle, coming at you with the NFO Quick Hit podcast of this special Easter, April 20th, 2014. And I've got a few things I like to talk about, and one of them is something that was reported on about a couple of weeks ago, and that's the potential for Microsoft doing emulation of the Xbox 360 on the Xbox One. And I've been reading a lot of things regarding it, and without getting too into the technical details of it, I think it is possible in the same way that Xbox emulation was possible on the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 2 emulation rather was possible on the PlayStation 3. The problem I foresee Microsoft having is similar to the problem that they had with the Xbox emulation on the Xbox 360. And what that is the Xbox was a standard x86 32-bit architecture, and the Xbox 360 was a PowerPC architecture. So it's going to be kind of difficult to get those two architectures to merge with each other, because the Xbox 360, as I said, is a PowerPC architecture, and the Xbox One is, again, the x86 architecture, but 64-bit this time. So it can be done, but realistically it's going to take a bit for it to get done, and they're going to have a hard time doing it. Now, I've been going back and forth about which is better, which will be the better option going forward. Will it be the PlayStation 4's Gakai streaming, or will it be potential Xbox One emulation of the Xbox 360? And I'm going to do some pros and cons of both of them. And I'm going to start with the PlayStation 4 and the potential for streaming service with Gakai of the PlayStation 3 games. Positive is that you're going to get a faithful translation of the game that's being streamed, because it's at the server. It's going to be run on the PlayStation 3 hardware, presumably, and so you're going to get a faithful translation without any anomalies or any serious glitches. But the downside of it is you're going to have to repurchase games that you may already own. Like, I know people who've spent thousands of dollars on PlayStation 3 libraries, and that's gonna catch them pretty sore, having to repurchase games. I'm not saying that they're gonna repurchase every game, but there are those games that you may want to play again, and it's gonna set you back a couple of $100s to repurchase those games. Another downside of streaming is that, at least in North America, the technology's not here. And what I mean by that is that we're still operating off of the old copper system in terms of high-speed internet service. North America ranks last among high-speed internet service speeds and viability, so we're going to be dealing with, unless you live super close to a hub that the PlayStation Gakai service is hosted at, you're going to have a lot of latency, and there's going to be a lot of lag. I know outside of North America, it'll prove to be a very viable service, because places like England, Germany, Japan, parts of China, stuff like that, they have fiber optic internet. And essentially, there's going to be very little latency between a server and a potential user of the Gakai service. So outside of North America, it's gonna prove to be a very viable service. Inside of North America, where that's the number one market, it's going to take a couple of years for the Gakkai service to catch up. Well, not the service itself, but it's going to take a while for the internet to become viable enough to catch up and use the Gakkai service properly. So that's one potential pitfall that I see, a major hurdle rather, that I see Sony encountering when they launch it. As for emulation of the Xbox One going to the Xbox 360, well, Xbox 360 going to the Xbox One, it can prove viable in that if you own thousands of dollars worth of games like I do on the Xbox 360 and plenty of other people do, it means you won't have to go ahead and repurchase your library. You already own the game, so that's a very huge positive. It's less money out of your pocket, but a glaring negative, because now I'll go into the technical aspects of it, is it's going to be very it's going to be very hard for them to fully emulate the Xbox 360 on the Xbox One. Even though the machine is powerful enough to do the emulation, it's the two different types of architecture which is going to be proven to be the kicker here, because if you look at the Xbox One, the Xbox 360, and how Xbox original was emulated on it, not all the games are perfect. Even the ones that run very well are far from perfect. So that's the problem that you're going to encounter when trying to do Xbox 360 emulation on the Xbox One. You're going to run into a lot of imperfectly working games, lots of glitches. Some games might not even work at all because of how they were, like, certain engines were built to work specifically on the Xbox 360, and they might not be able to emulate that environment at all on the Xbox One. So you may run into a bunch of games that you may not be able to play, which may be some of the bigger games like Xbox did on the Xbox 360. Like, you had a bunch of games that nobody played on the Xbox being able to be emulated on the Xbox 360, while some of the bigger titles you couldn't play, which left a lot of people with a bad taste in their mouth. So that's a potential downfall of, well, pitfall of emulation. So let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment down below or make a video. Tell me what you think. Also, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and subscribe to the NFO main channel if you haven't done that already. This is D-Mizzle Frizzle, aka D-Man for Life, signing off. Hope you have a good Easter.